Look at him. He's sad. After a hard-fought effort, the Texans lose to the Dallas Cowboys 27-23. Cody and I recap the game and how the goal line play calling issues cost Houston crucial points on Sunday.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Monday episode of the Locked On Texan podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of the Locked On Texan podcast is presented by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepick.com, promo code Locked On. I'm John Hickman, joined by Cody Davis on this Monday episode of the Locked On Texans
this
podcast.
Sad Monday episode of Locked
Your
On
team
Texans.
every day.
Sad. Hurts.
27-23 loss to the Dallas Cowboys. The stars that night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. It just seemed like the stars wasn't shining on Houston strong enough.
It shined. It just didn't shine long enough. Don't disrespect them.
Yeah, I'm going to disrespect them. Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll split time at quarterback, at the quarterback position on Sunday, combining for 213 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Damian Pierce, 78 yards on 22 carries and 1 touchdown. No Cooks, no Collins. Chris Moore and the newcomer Amari Rodgers, man, they combined for 181 yards, 1 touchdown, clutch touchdown by Rodgers. Nice throw, probably one of the better throws of the year, and it ironically came from Jeff Driscoll. Defensively, Jalen Petrie led the way for a second straight game with 12 tackles and 2 pass deflections, and the defense had a total of 11 pass deflections on Sunday, 2 interceptions, and really made it difficult for the number one scoring offense to get comfortable. A second straight week where we saw this defense play tremendously for Lovie Smith and showcase why Petrie was a good pick for Houston. Malik Collins had a good day, back-to-back good games on Sunday for the Houston Texans, and Ogbo Okoronkwo got into the mix with a sack as well. He also had a fairly good showing. Cody, this was the first time all season where the Texans' offensive game plan caught a team off guard. But more importantly, this may have been the first time Pep game plan to the strengths of his players and showcased an unsuspected wrinkle throughout the entire year. It seemed as though the offense had been stuck because maybe the players weren't able to execute in ways that Pep Hamilton wanted them to execute. But this was the first time, seeing Jeff Driscoll get utilized more than a drive here, a series here. No Kyle Allen on Sunday. He was inactive. Seeing, Jeff involved in the run game and that passing touchdown, was great. But goal line execution and more so play calling hurt Houston for a second straight game. Due to Damian Pierce being sidelined with an injury he was tending to, the Houston Texans opted for a Rex Burkhead carry on 3rd and 1. And then on 4th and short, they opted for a speed option with 3 minutes and 25 seconds left in the game, which gave Dallas enough time to go down and score a touchdown. I'll let you guys know that Houston could have opted for the points there, which would have made their fighting back to win their game a little bit easier. They got to the 3rd and 4 by an interception from Tremon Smith, who also had a very good day for the Houston Texans. Cody, offensively, I just mentioned what essentially lost them the game, but what are your thoughts from the Houston Texans offense?
I'm gonna start with the quarterback play. All season we've been talking about how Pep Hamilton doesn't have the right quarterback. We've been saying it for game 13, 14 into the season. I'm not sitting here saying that Jeff Driscoll is the right quarterback, but because he had a quarterback who can actually utilize his legs, it allows him to open up his playbook just a little bit more. I love the dual quarterback system because it kept the Dallas Cowboys on their toes, as you just mentioned, John. And, that is part of the reason why we did not see Pep Hamilton and this offense convert back to their conservative ways. And I truly do believe that it's like I just mentioned, it's because he had a quarterback where you can actually utilize in the run option situation. You can utilize his legs to pick up a yard or two, and then hell, Jeff Driscoll don't know what the hell happened this season,
Yeah,
but
that was
even going back to preseason and training camp, Jeff Driscoll has really worked on his arm strength over the last year. Because remember, I used to come on this show a lot during the 2021 campaign and talk a lot about Jeff Driscoll, but overall.
Look,
I
Patrick
also,
Mahomes right there.
well, I won't go that far because you saw what Patrick Mahomes did on yesterday with another no look pass. Don't know how the hell he did that. But at the same time, I also believe that this dual quarterback system kind of took a lot of pressure off of Davis Mills, because you saw a lot of times when it was like 3rd and 1, 2nd and 1, or whatever the case might be, it was Jeff Driscoll going into the game. And not only that, it was Jeff Driscoll going out there making plays where you might think to yourself, I don't know if Davis Mills actually had the confidence and the ability to go out there and actually make those plays. Of course, the biggest play of all when you talk about Jeff Driscoll is when he connected with Amari Rodgers for, what was that, like a 20-yard touchdown game or whatever the case might be. But, I truly do believe that helped Davis Mills in the long run. Hopefully this is something that we are able to see throughout the season, because not only did they have a chance to win, but it also made them look competitive and watchable. Because ever since the game against the Tennessee Titans, as we keep saying, there was moments where this offense just was unwatchable. I know you're gonna touch on it. That final, the goal line, whether 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You just mentioned it. They call Rex Burkhead's name. I didn't agree with it, but I kind of felt like there was only so much that this Houston Texans team could do, only due to the injury of Dameon Pierce. I truly do believe if Dameon Pierce was healthy, he would have been out there. We all know he has the capability to push that ball through the goal line. However, other than calling Rex Burkhead's name, I wish that they would have went to Benjamin just a little bit more.
I want to address that before I address all of the good things that you said, right, from the offense. The issue that I have with going forward, first and foremost, a lot of people could have argued that when you did not score on 3rd and 1, that maybe you should have taken the points there. However, I'm okay with Lovie Smith being aggressive there.
I am too.
Your season is over with, and it shows some sort of fire and spark. And if you get it now for your offense and your players that you still got to coach for now 4 more games, that does something for them. I did not like the play call. I did not. I thought that with Dameon Pierce out, your best runner on the sideline, you should have went to your second best runner. And your second best runner isn't Rex Burkhead in that situation. I would have loved to see the Houston Texans spread out the offense and allow Jeff Driscoll to, QB draw something. He was effective on a day on the ground, being able to pick up and move the chains, allow him to get that opportunity to run on 3rd and short. Or easily, you could have just maybe a QB sneak, got in the trenches and just big body versus big body, move guys out the way, let me get my body in. I thought going to Rex Burkhead right there is the theme of Houston. You may be doing some things right, but then you go back to Rex Burkhead, and I thought that play calling was completely questionable, amongst other adjectives I can describe it as. And then the speed option on 4th and short, after you already lose yards, the defensive line for the Dallas Cowboys bust through, stop Rex Burkhead, was a loss of 2 there. Then you go with a speed option, and I thought that was even more of an egregious play call.
That looked like total confusion and chaos.
So back-to-back weeks with back-to-back opportunities to score on the 1-yard line, and Houston Pep Hamilton and this offense completely wets the bed. Now, to get back to some of the positive things that the Houston Texans did on Sunday, because this game was competitive, a large part to how the defense played, which we'll get into, but offensively, they were competitive, right? I look at 7 of 15 on third down. Guys, with Jeff Driscoll in that starting lineup or getting some starter playing time or however you want to look at his snap breakdown, Houston was better on third downs, right? He was able to, use them on picking up some of those third and shorts, moving the ball with his legs, extending the drives, which is something that Houston has been failing at throughout the year. And when I say they were extending drives, Cody, they won the time of possession 33 minutes compared to 26, 27. That doesn't happen a lot, right? So for Houston, this was one of the more competitive games. They had to lead up into the 3-minute, 25-second mark. Tremont Smith goes and he gets an interception with an opportunity to score. I just thought that when it came down to it, they went to bed. They had a brain fart. I thought that maybe that Chris Moore could have been challenged. That play could have been challenged. That was a heck of an effort for him to stretch that ball out. And I thought that there was a little bit of opportunity there that maybe that ball crossed the plane just enough for a touchdown. But overall, man, a team that was 110-1 or 111-1, this was a game that you have to be proud. They didn't get the win, and maybe not necessarily proud, but maybe just sit back and say, you know what? They were more competitive than what I thought they would be. The Texans were the 18.5-point underdog coming into this game to start the week off. They lost by 3. They lost by 4 and went into the end of the with a few seconds left with the lead. I'm not mad at this performance and effort.
And I do want to add this really quick, John. That last the Texans' inability to get into the end zone, it also goes back to something you've been talking about ever since training camp. This team has no playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, especially when you look at the fact that Nico Collins, who was a red zone threat, he wasn't in there. Brandon Cooks, who is, say what you want about him, but he's arguably still this team best wide receiver. He wasn't there. As we mentioned, Damian Pierce was hurt at the time. Like, everything that we've been saying about the Houston Texans throughout this entire season, both good and bad, could be wrapped up and summed up in that final offensive drive.
I want to tell you guys about Turo, where basically everybody can come and get their roll on, right? Shout out to Ludacris. But with Turo, this is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. So with Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts across the U.S., the UK, Canada, and Australia. So forget those boring rental cars. Find your drive at Turo.com today. And I also want to let you guys know about Audible. This episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we are sure you're going to love. That's why you'll be able to find a sneak peek of Think Like a Champion available right now as a bonus episode on Locked On Presents. Listen, with Think Like a Champion, it's a brand new podcast from Russell Wilson and Audible. Russ is a champion on the field, but off of it, we rarely know the grind on the path to greatness, right? And Russ probably had one of his better days on Sunday as well. So want to check out that Audible podcast with Russ. It's available free on Audible or wherever you get your podcast. Head over to Locked On Presents for a sneak peek of Think Like a Champion, or catch the full series available anywhere you get your podcast, available everywhere now. Audible. Let's go ahead and all get in the game.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Sad Monday installment of Locked On Texans. John, as you just alluded to before we closed out the first segment, the Texans had several opportunities to win this game. They looked really good, looked really competitive. Yes, the offense, I will go as far to say this was the best offensive performance of the season. However, as you alluded to, the majority of the reason why they had an opportunity to win this game, they look good, look competitive, was the fact, due to the great performance from their defense. And I once again, for the second week in a row, want to come on this show and say I apologize to Coach Lovie Smith and Coach Miles Smith and to the Houston Texans defense, because for the fourth consecutive game, they held the opposing team's running back to under 100 yards. Ezekiel Elliott, 62 yards on 15 carries. Yes, they did give up a touchdown in Zeke's case and for Tony Pollard, but at the end of the day, you're looking at a situation where the Texans really have made some improvements to their run defense. This is arguably the best I've ever seen it in a 4-game stretch. probably since the loss of DJ Reader. And you just got to give kudos to this defense on all three levels.
Yeah, man, I think one of the players of the game, we talk about the stars at night being big and bright. You know what storyline we didn't talk about? Malik Collins going back to the Cowboys that we originally played for. And Malik Collins, for a second straight week, man, had a performance where it may have went unnoticed, but not to a trained eye. Malik Collins was a very big part of why Tony Pollard, who I was more scared of coming into this game than Ezekiel Elliott, listen, 42 yards on 10 attempts. Now, it says 4.2 yards per carry, which is something that you want your running back to be around. But I think overall, the Dallas Cowboys may have had the quietest 127-yard performance total, right? Zeke got in, Pollard got in, Dak Prescott put some yards on that as well. But overall, it was quiet. And for the Houston Texans, where you look at certain games this year, you go back and pinpoint the run defense took you out this game here. That wasn't the case on Sunday. And I want to give a shout out to Malik Collins, who, again, he had a big day on Sunday. 4 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 1 tackle for loss. And also Taylor Stallworth, number 90.
The newcomer.
Like, I don't know where he came from, but, you know, he also had 4 tackles and the tackles for loss. He's playing a defensive tackle position. And so when I look at what the Houston Texans was able to do, man, listen, it started really up front with the interior. I thought the edge could have been better with containing some of the runs. Some of those bigger runs for the Dallas Cowboys happened on the edge, but through the trenches up the middle between Malik Collins and the newcomer Taylor Stallworth, even Roy Lopez was able to get in on some of that action. You know, they really set the tone defensively up front in the middle, but Jalen Petrie for a second straight week lead his team in tackles, but led the team, maybe led Sunday in big hits. Was everywhere, flying like a torpedo, man. Got a couple of pass deflections. Houston overall had 11 pass deflections on Sunday. So let's talk about the defense overall now that we just pinpointed some guys out. Also got to shout out Desmond King, 2 tackles for a loss. Christian Kirksey was everywhere. He had a big pass deflection. Jonathan Owens with a pass deflection. Christian Harris, who continues week by week. He's just playing with a lot more. He's faster out there, right? His play recognition is getting better and better each week. He had 5 tackles with a tackle for, not a tackle for loss, but a pass deflection. Tremont Smith, 2 pass deflections. Ogbo, a pass deflection. MJ Stewart and Thomas Booker, who got in on the action, had a pass deflection. Like I mentioned, 11 overall, 5 QB hits. This defense was flying. This defense was ferocious. This defense was tenacious. This defense played for their coach for the second straight week, and they made it difficult for 2 quarterbacks, one being more rusty, but Dak Prescott leading the number 1 offense in the NFL just put up a 50-burger last week. It came down to the wire to score 27 points versus the Houston Texans throughout the entire year, largely considered one of the worst defenses in the league. Back-to-back weeks, they held teams to unsuspected numbers, limited their quarterbacks. That Prescott had a QBR of 24 and a quarterback rating of 71. Kudos to that defense, man. Flying around for Lovie Smith. I was thoroughly impressed with their performance on Sunday. Guys, tonight you got the Arizona Cardinals versus the New England Patriots for Monday Night Football. I'm looking at my prize picks projection right now. Will Mac Jones throw for over 220 yards? More or less. Will Kyler Murray throw for over 232 yards? More or less. Both of those can be bet on. It gets even better. You can bet on James Carpenter. You can bet on Ramondre Stevenson. You can make some of these bets right now. Super easy. PrizePicks.com. Pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less than their prize picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections available. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, and they have safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. For the first-time users, you can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So if you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. Same as 50. You deposit 50, they'll give you 50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On and sign up for your instant deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks.com. Thanks for making Locked On Texans your first listen of the day. And for your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reaction, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Before we get out of here, I think this was, Cody may describe it as the best game of the year. I would say the most impressive game of the year, but the most unsuspected game of the year. No, I'm serious, man. And listen, Pep Hamilton had a brain fart on third and short, but utilizing Jeff the way he did in that offense, and Cody, exactly how you said it. What it did, honestly, when I saw Davis Mills out there throwing the ball compared to the times he was out there as a full-time, undoubted starter, it looked like he was able to make a play, go to the sideline, and assist everything. Right? And if you saw at certain times, the only time that I didn't like them pulling them was a big 36-yard catch from Chris Moore that was reviewed. That catch, I thought that was a hell of a throw.
I remember that.
I thought in two games, in one game, we saw maybe the two best throws of the year from two completely different quarterbacks from the Houston Texans. The Jeff Driscoll to Amari Rodgers touchdown, and that throw by Davis Mills. I thought those are two of the best throws made this season, and Houston doesn't have a lot of those. So you could possibly say those are the two best throws of the year. But that was the only time that I didn't like him getting pulled there. Outside of that, it looked like every time he left and came back, something different was processed for him. And no, I'm not saying he went out there and made a ton of great throws or made a ton of great passes, but he went out there and at the very least was efficient for the Houston Texans, which is something that they have been lacking out of Davis Mills throughout the year. 16 of 21, 175 yards, 8.3 yards per catch, a QBR of 84.9, a quarterback rating of 80. Those are some numbers for Davis Mills that he doesn't get on a regular day basis. So it was good to see how they used Jeff Driscoll to help out that offense. And that was one of the few times where Houston came out already with a counterpunch, right? It just came down to the third and short. I don't know, how do you call those two plays back to back?
You called this the most unexpected game, John, and I would 100% agree with you because just like on the offensive side of the ball, the Texans also had several key players who were out. They went into this game without Derek Stingley Jr. They lose Steven Nelson early in this game, and the fact that they were still able to make plays on the ball, the fact that they were still able to make several stops in the red zone, like, I cannot tell you, like, yes, I'm hurt that they did not come out with the victory because not only did they play well, it was also against the Dallas Cowboys. And you know how I feel about the Dallas Cowboys. And can you imagine if the Houston Texans would have won this game? That means that the city of Houston and Texans fan would have used this game and hung it over the Cowboys' head for 4 years by saying, we still beat y'all even when we was the worst team in the league. Like, I had so many jokes ready for so many people. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to put that to rest. So, but John, I know there's no such thing as more victories, but this was a more victory for the Houston Texans at the end of the day, because like they had so much stacked against them. And not only that, you're looking at two franchises who are the complete opposite of each other. You got one team to where, look, if everything goes correctly, unfortunately, they might be in the Super Bowl. And then you got another team where it's like, at one time, it seemed like they was moving forward in their rebuild, but as you sit here entering Week 15 with the game against the Kansas City Chiefs coming up with a 1-11-1 record, it's like, man, well, we might have to hit the reset button on the rebuild earlier than expected. So much going on with the Houston Texans. Like I keep mentioning, what's surprising me the most, the fact that they was missing so many key players. This was a hell of a fight from the Texans. We've been covering this team ever since the 2019 campaign, 2020. And this is a top 5 game in my book, and it would have been number 1 had they came away victorious. I know a lot of people talking about the Texans falling short at the goal line like we did, but I'm not gonna lie to you, John. I knew the Texans was in trouble after Tremont Smith failed to connect in the end zone after he recorded his second interception. And I only say that because at the end of the day, you knew the Texans did not have weapons, and I knew at some point the luck in the fight that the Texans were playing with, I knew eventually it was going to run out, especially given somebody like Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys offense, who, the Texans did a hell of a good job stopping them, but they're still one of, if not the best offensive team in the league. And, I just keep thinking back to that interception, man. If Tremont Smith would have just scored, not putting the blame on him, but just saying that was a missed opportunity for the Houston Texans.
At 10:41 on Sunday, I tweeted, "Today game may get ugly, huh? No Cooks, no Collins on the offensive side of the ball. This should be a good opportunity for Rodgers, Benjamin, and for Houston to see how much they want to invest in Chris Moore for next year. I think Chris Moore is a player." This is at 10:41 before the game. I think that Houston should really strongly consider bringing back Chris Moore for next year. Every time he has an opportunity with no Cooks or no Collins, if one of those guys are out, Chris Moore has always stepped up for the Houston Texans. In an offense that really lacked big play and explosive opportunities, Chris Moore tries to take advantage of the opportunities that he gets on the field. He had a great day on Houston on Sunday, 10 catches, 124 yards. Maybe he should be back for next year. That's something that we should discuss throughout the week. I'm John Hickman. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Also, subscribe to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube under the name Locked On Texans. Comment, share, subscribe, all of that. And let's talk Texans this week.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody, COTYDAVIS_24. This hurt. I hurt. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, peace.